Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here with Brother Bro, and it's time to review The Son. This is Florian Zeller's follow-up to The Father, which was Florian Zeller's first film that he directed based on a play, and it won two major Academy Awards. And so this follow-up, also based on a play of his, with Hugh Jackman, Laura Dern, Vanessa Kirby, highly anticipated movie. But my God, the reactions have been all over the place since this premiered at Venice, and at Toronto, I think it got even worse. I have talked to people who fucking hate this movie.
I have had a lot of fun talking to people who don't like this movie and people who do like it and seeing like what the arguments are.
The movie is about a dad who is trying to connect and understand his son's depression in every way that he can. And by every way that he can, I mean there are a lot of limitations on that. Like his dad is trying to understand his depression in a logical way. He is genuinely and deeply concerned about his son, wants to be there for his son, but doesn't know whether or not he should just tell him like, stop what you're doing and go to school. Should I punish you? Should I give you love? Like, should I give you too much concern? It's literally just something that he is incapable of fully connecting with in this movie.
Yeah, and then he never fundamentally understands what it means to be depressed.
And the aspect of his character that's like, I had a lot of struggles when I was a child. I had it worse than you, and yet I made it out fine, and I learned how to do this, and this is how I learned to do this, and I'm trying to impart that on you, but it's not working. And I saw that character in a lot of people that I know in real life. I think it is a way that people may respond to depression that seems very realistic. And for that reason, I actually think the movie is important. And there's even a scene towards the end that I'll just say involves mental health professionals that I thought like, this is important. Like people can take away something real from this scene. Sure, it hits you over the head on its answer to some of these things, but I still thought that it captured that dynamic really well.
There's a quality about this film that it does share with The Father. I don't think like Florian Zeller is like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and one day he decides to be a creative genius and the other day he like stumbles onto a movie set and has no idea what's going on, or is just like high or something. I think Florian Zeller was there for The Father and he was there for The Son. And I can see what he was going for with The Son. The Father is a film that doesn't present any easy answers, and I think that's what The Son does very strongly. We're kind of left to wonder about what contributes to the son's condition, whether it's the mistakes that the dad has made or whether this is purely an affliction. I don't know if the movie gets that deep at the core of that, and I think it actually may suggest too much that it is the product of his parents' decisions. And I don't know how much it's going for that, so maybe that's sort of like a weakness that I don't know. But I like the ambiguity there. I like that we're left to wonder, and we're kind of put in the father's shoes for that example, as he is forced to reflect on these things without easy answers himself.
Now, the other side of this dynamic is the son, and I think that this is much weaker, especially in how the movie portrays the kid's depression. A lot of it comes across as sadness. Now, obviously there's a tie, but like every time that this kid is upset or has anything emotional to say, he is crying. This is partly a problem on Florian Zeller directing the kid to cry every time that he has anything emotional or sad to say. Depression maybe could look like somebody who doesn't do anything and doesn't want to go to school and doesn't have friends and doesn't have hobbies, but that's kind of the most one-dimensional way to look at it. It can also be somebody who seems like they have a lot going for them, and yet something is fundamentally wrong. And I think that's the more interesting portrayal of depression in a movie that's trying to show the gray areas of this kind of stuff. It felt a little black and white, that it's just like this kid who is very sad and like crying. Zen McGrath's moping did not really work for me. I've talked to a lot of people who were not really fans of this casting choice or this performance. I felt like a lot of times he was like making this face when he does emotional stuff where he's like, and it just didn't always work for me.
Yeah, it just felt like he wasn't able to meet where the character was. And I honestly, I hate to say it, I don't want to make it seem like Zen McGrath's just not a good actor, but like Florian Zeller and Zen McGrath's collaboration it didn't result in the right choices for this character. The script doesn't seem to understand the nuance of depression. There was a choice for Zen McGrath to like bite his fingernails when he was getting like, ooh, he's stressed out. And that was fucking weird. Like, why do you have to make him do this odd tick? And every time he did, I went like, what are you doing? Like, this is just a person who's depressed. This is not like a schizophrenic here. I felt like his presence in every scene was taking me out of the film and making the drama just seem more fake. This was my number one biggest problem with the movie. is that this character doesn't feel real. The performance didn't work for me. It was just like very unconvincing. And I can see the ways in which if they performed it differently, the movie would just be better. If they could just let us feel when he is wholly alive and wholly there and wholly like joyful and happy, or just seems that way, then we would understand the father's perspective and why he is naive. But because he is always like kind of mopey and always like on the verge of possibly crying, we don't understand why Hugh Jackman doesn't know what's going on. And there's even one scene which is maybe the worst directing choice I've seen all year, which is there's a moment of happiness where there's like dancing going on. And I think we need these moments where Hugh Jackman feels like I have my son completely here. Everything is fine. And the music abruptly shifts to one where it takes out like the diegetic soundtrack and then it goes into a score that is very somber.
No, it goes into a song.
Oh, it goes into a song, which is not what they're dancing to, and then it starts doing the dancing in slow motion,
and it wasn't even shot like in the right kind of
it looked
slow
like
motion.
It was post-production slow motion. And then it does this thing where Zen McGrath, we can't even let him be happy in this scene. It needs us to land on a little pan over and he's still sad, and we're supposed to be like, hey, don't get too happy because this man is still sad.
It just doesn't make sense. I said yikes when
I was
happened.
like, I nearly
yikes.
jumped out of my seat.
The music choice here, the slow motion, really, and then that on the cherry on
for
top.
The editor to allow that too, like how did this happen? This wasn't the only fumble on Florian Zeller's part. Like there were other decisions, lines that felt wrong. There was just fumbling throughout the film. I also think there was fumbling in the production design and cinematography. Like it just felt very okay.
It's actually surreal to watch a movie with these caliber of actors, like Oscar nominated actors, in a movie that just does not look up to par with a prestige drama. Florian Zeller needs a new cinematographer. You'll have a character on the side and the rest of the frame, like more than 50% of the frame, is like a wall or a brick wall.
Yeah, just a lot of
like totally
space.
Uninteresting compositions. Like,
yeah, I think he needs to start thinking more visually about like what kind of lighting can we play with in the scene to honor like what the scene's really about. And it's interesting to have a movie that's kind of devoid of that thought, where it feels like the set is always kind of the same and we're just going to put the characters over here today, almost like a sitcom or something. I just wanted to see Florian Zeller upgrade in some way, and it's kind of a disappointment that he didn't seem to like improve or try to deepen his visual language.
There's also been a lot of talk about the ending because some people fucking hated the ending. I feel like if you say that the ending is manipulative, to me that says you thought the main reason for the ending, which I'm not spoiling, was just to get another reaction out of the audience. Well, sure, it's a scene that maybe thinks that you're going to cry. I think there's another purpose to it. And I'm kind of surprised that people aren't giving it any credit for that. But I guess if you like hate the movie and you're just not on board with it, you may not be willing to like give it that.
We can talk about performances, I suppose. People want to know about Vanessa Kirby. She's really good in it. I think people will be very pleased if they're looking for a good Vanessa Kirby performance. I really liked her in this. I actually think she never really hits a wrong note. Laura Dern, I think she does hit a couple odd notes every now and then, but overall, I really bought her portrayal as the mother, and I felt for her when she was in the scenes. I could look to her and understand what she was going through. And so I think she did a really good job.
I do think that as far as Oscars go, like I am not buying this in the supporting actors category anymore. Based on the reviews, and also I don't think any of the supporting performances are quite as standout as, say, like Hugh Jackman. And Hugh Jackman, I think, is actually really good here. His character worked really, really well for me.
I loved watching Hugh Jackman shift his parenting style just to get inside of Zen McGrath and just to make him move and make him motivated or do something. Like he has to switch from being like the stern parent where I'm gonna, maybe punish you. And then when he realizes like that's not working, or maybe he does get his way, then he has to shift into like being more soft. And it's just him figuring out how to navigate this situation. And I found it really believable.
I wonder if he would slip along with the movie, because I do think this is really the only category is shot in. I don't actually buy it in screenplay anymore. I don't think that survives. I think it might be just Hugh Jackman, and even him, I can't say he's safe. But my impression was that like he would still be nominated. Very, very mixed thoughts on this movie, but I think that the redeemable parts stick with me more. They just stick with me more than the parts that are negative. And it made it worth the watch, and it made the discussions of the movie good for me. I feel like I got a decent amount of value out of this movie. I would give it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I see what Florian Zeller was doing here. I see how this is the writer of the father. It has some of the strengths that the father has. It also fumbles where the father does not. And I would give this a solid 7 out of 10.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Whose son are you?